Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and this is another Ginny O Talks, the part of the channel where I talk about things in the creative community. And today, I want to talk about BookTok. So this is a kind of follow-up episode to my Department of Justice versus the Penguin Random House, because TikTok did come up during the trial, and a lot of the reactions I've seen to that, including my own, were just, huh? What? We're going there? Really? And it came up mostly in the context of Colleen Hoover. I don't know if you know Colleen Hoover's story. She's, just very quickly, she's a independent author that made it big by Amazon, and she was a TikTok early adopter, so her books had gone viral again 4 or 5 years after they were published, and now that she is continually on TikTok. Now, the lawyers for Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster called her, quote-unquote, the queen of TikTok, and they did mention in the trial that they, which I believe is Simon & Schuster, because Simon & Schuster tends to pick up more independent authors types because they are the ones contracted to Wattpad. Simon & Schuster don't give her as much marketing support because she's viral often on TikTok. So this is kind of a little clue towards where parts of the industry are headed, I believe. And I guess I do have a post-it note here, and with some notes on it. And we'll see how well I do. But it's kind of like TikTok is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's talk about the good first. Okay, we'll have some happy talk about TikTok first. So, is TikTok a good or a bad or an ugly thing? Well, that depends on how you want to view it. So what's good about TikTok? Well, first off, we have to think about who is TikTok marketed towards, which is teenagers, people who are just getting their first social media accounts, 13 to 18-year-olds. That's where TikTok is at. And so you see TikTok, this reflects in TikTok, the BookTok communities, as it's heavily geared towards young adult and also heavily geared towards romance. And the particular young adult stuff that comes up most of the time is young adult fantasy, but you will have like some contemporary lit stuff in there. Now, I don't go to TikTok looking for book recommendations because I no longer read, and I barely write young adult. I think I have a middle grade thing, a Portal Fantasy kind of middle grade story I have in drafts, and I'm working on a young adult kind of Nancy Drew, Harriet the Spy, Thelma trio mysteries type of thing. That's more young adult. And then most of my other stuff is in the kind of, I don't know if you want to call it new adult, but it's more in the adult category of books. And what I read is the same. I try to read, or when I am buying books, I do head towards the quote-unquote adult section. So, I mean, when I was growing up, young adult did not really exist. You would have what you could buy at Scholastic, and that was it. So my young adult that I was not reading at young adult age, I was reading at middle grade age, was things like Bruce Koval. This is one of the few kind of young adult books I have left. I have a whole bunch of The Black Stallion, but what it was back then was The Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley, which I both, the Sweet Valley Twins, which I borrowed from my sister. And then it was the Boxcar Kids. I had a Christian detective thing, Nancy Drew style thing called Mandy. And, dear God, there was not, you know, it was like Amelia Bedelia and Goosebumps. Goosebumps was really big back then. So there are all these, like, 20,000 to 40,000 K word novels that were, formatted a lot differently and than they are now, and you didn't have this kind of step between this and what I started reading in 3rd grade. Redwell. This was my young adult. Well, middle grade to young adult. My 3rd grade teacher decided he was going to read to us Brian Jakes during lunch. So he read A Smallest Flower, and I went down to the library and found every single other one that he'd written and just bought the rest of them. And then about the time that I would have been hitting young adult, 13, 14, 15 years of age, a friend introduced me to Star Wars, and so this was what I was reading in high school. We didn't have anything like young adult when I was growing up. You went straight to the adult section. So during high school, not only was I reading Star Wars, I was reading classics like Caves of Steel from Isaac Asimov. I was reading Dune. Still have Dune. I read Dune during high school. I read The Lord of the Rings during high school because Mr. Fillmore, 3rd grade teacher, read us The Hobbit also during class. 3rd and 4th grade. He was a really good teacher. I'll give him that much. And I mean, during that time, I was also reading a lot of what is called Christian romance. So some of it historical romance, some of it, historical. I'm historical. So Gilbert Morris, Laurie Rick, Jane Pert, that type of thing. So young adult did not really exist back then. And, I will give Christian romance the nod of it's very, very clean. So there's no worry about me being, ooh, sex. No, you had to worry about more about that with who I also picked up in high school, Anne McCaffrey and Mercedes Lackey. So I had a very weird reading journey in comparison to what goes on today. So it's young adult fantasy and romance. Now, young adult fantasy and romance both have a bad rap for the same reasons. They're loved by women, and they feel like people feel like it's not a real books, which is bullshit. Okay? If my Christian romance is a real book, if you can say with a straight face that you've read Stephen R. Lawhead, okay, young adult's a real book, for goodness sakes. So what is good about TikTok is it does get young people reading. Okay, they're on there and they're sharing and they're talking to each other and they're like, I read this book and it's really, really, I love it and I want other books like it. Can you tell me other books like it? And this is great. I mean, and this is good for authors. And on the author side, it's good because they're not necessarily pushing debuts. I do wish they would. I do wish that they would push more debuts. That'd be very helpful to authors, but they don't. So they're pushing a lot of books that are anywhere from 3 to 5 years old, if not a little older. So this means the authors that suddenly go viral on TikTok, which is I guess what happened with Ice Planet Barbarians, are suddenly seeing a uptick in their backlist sales, so their royalties go up, which means their income is going up, which means they get to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. It will not help them get a new advance or a bigger book run, but at least they're getting sales out of what's going on TikTok. So I think that is the good stuff about TikTok. Okay, young people reading, um, authors getting money. So what's bad about TikTok? What's really kind of bad, and I'm not going to say this in a, oh my god, you're bad people. What I'm saying is bad is that the way TikTok works is through algorithms. And algorithms really kind of set this type of specific way you have to market your books on TikTok, which is you have to market your books through tropes. Tropes are kind of like little familiar elements in a story that people kind of latch onto, and they like these types of things. Chosen one is a trope. Enemies to lover is a trope. Only one bed. The warrior princess is a trope. Found family. So you're using these AO3 tags, something from tvtropes.com, to sell a book. And the tropes are not plots. So depending on who's doing the promotion of the book on the TikTok can depend on how accurate the TikTok recommendation actually is, because people might put in a trope that's not actually in the book and end up misrepresenting the book, both good for the good and for the bad. What's even, I don't know if this ought to be under ugly or not, but what's also bad is if you are an author on TikTok and you misrepresent your book's tropes on TikTok in order to go viral. I'm not going to talk about the specific situation that's going on currently right now because I have not read the book and I have not really seen anything about it, so I don't have enough information, and I think other people have done it really, gone digging and done their due diligence, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I want to talk about that as an author, doing that just to get views, just to, kind of push your book to make it sound like it's going to have a bigger audience than it does, is hurtful, both to you and to your readers. Now, it's hurtful to the author because what's going to happen is going to happen with what happened with 50 Shades of Grey. You're going to get a lot of returns. And you're also going to get a lot of readers who, and will happen, who will go and they will review bomb your book on Goodreads. Whether or not they've read it, it doesn't matter. So you'll end up, maybe your book is actually a 3-star book. I don't know. Or a 4-star book. Look, teenagers are a lot more forgiving than I am personally, so maybe your book is a 3 or 4-star book. But if you misrepresent the tropes of your book, what you're saying, it is, this is for the readers of X, Y, and Z, and here are the tropes and stuff what's going to go on in it. You will end up with a lot of 1-star reviews that you actually deserve because you misrepresented your book. And the other bad thing is tropes aren't plots. So just having a trope in your book doesn't mean for readers they're gonna like the plot of your book, the actual plot of your book. Like, I guess what gets misrepresented the most is enemies to lovers. So maybe you do have, like, it might not be in there at all, or it might be something that one reader sees and another reader doesn't. It could be, those shipping goggles, oh my god. Shipping goggles on way too tight. This is, or or it might not have any kind of impact on the story at all. So marketing your book through tropes is like this really dicey thing, which is why I'm not on there at all. Because I honestly, for the love of God, or even God's little green apples, I don't know what tropes are in my books. So, I mean, let's take The Lawn Prospect, my cozy werewolf drama here. I know it has found family in it, because that was kind of the point of writing it. I want to talk about how family is more than blood type of things, and like that. I know there's a height kink in it, because the two main characters who are in a quote-unquote slow burn romance, and in my definition of slow burn romance is you don't get the first kiss until book 3. So if you are looking for a slow burn romance, that's my definition. It's going to take some time for them to even recognize that they like each other like that, or at least I'm getting this part. And I mean, I could say that, but that's not going to tell you about the plot. It's not going to tell you that, here's this new guy and he's trying to decide, remember, this is slice of life drama, if he is going to stay with this werewolf pack that he's found that happens to be a motorcycle club, or is there something out there that's better, or is he going to move on, or is he going to return to his family? And if he returns to his family, bad things would happen. I did not make that explicit, but yes, if he returned to his family, bad things would happen. So he's got to make this very man versus self kind of decision of, do I stay or do I go? And I did try to set it up in the first 5 pages that was the main conflict, personal conflict of this character in the book, and kind of the rest of it of, them rescuing this guy in South Africa, or the African continent somewhere. He doesn't know where they are. He just knows it in the African continent somewhere. Is kind of like this window dressing of, this is what life is like with this werewolf pack, and is the main guy going to stay or not? And, wacky hijinks with the girl of, I am attracted to him, but he is going to be in my charge, so I can't act on it, and this is just so frustrating. I feel sorry for her, but, this is what I do. You have to torment your characters every once in a while, you know. So, you know, just fighting against that, her instincts, and, you know, remembering the power imbalance. Once the power imbalance goes away, then maybe she can date him, type of thing. So I don't know, you know, what tropes are really in there that would be, you know, something to go viral on TikTok. Whereas the Dawn Princess, or the Dawn trilogy, which needs to finish, so it's an actual trilogy. You know, it's, you know, a warrior princess who's trying to help other princesses to stop them from being cursed and the like. And, you know, she meets the guy she's supposed to be marrying and decides, I don't know if I like him or not. And, you know, snarky dragon sidekick best friend, and I don't know. Literally, I just, like, as an author, I don't write to tropes. I can't. Because to me, tropes aren't plots. Tropes are nice. You can lampshade tropes. They give people familiarity. You know, okay, you can create something with fake dating, but it's still not really a plot. It doesn't have any sort of conflict or stakes or anything to it. I had, you know, okay, I can create a story with fake dating into it, but what's gonna be individual to that story is the conflicts, the stakes, and the plots. It's like, it is like sort of like doing a, it is like doing a fairy tale retelling. Like, okay, I mean, this is Sleeping Beauty helps save Rapunzel, you know, helps a Beauty and the Beast save her beast so their daughter doesn't become a Rapunzel. I know, complicated. But just because I have a fairy tale that I want to retell doesn't necessarily mean I have a step-by-step plot. And it's not, you know, going to tell readers, you know, saying, oh, this is a fairy tale retelling. It's not going to tell readers much other than the fact, well, we're going to hopefully find some fairy tale elements in it. You know, was there a fairy godmother? Yes. Was there, you know, will true love's kiss wake her? Things like that. You know, tropes aren't plots. And so you can get, you know, okay, you can mark it on a trope, but if that plot, or if the characters, or, you know, things don't actually match up to those tropes that you're talking about, you're again going to end up with a lot of dissatisfied readers. Marketing is tough. It really is. Like, I know Zhao said that, you know, her book, The Iron Ritter, was like a bunch of furries having a DBZ fight, and it really wasn't. Now, I wasn't disappointed because it was still a good book. You know, I liked it well enough. I would probably give it a 3 or 3.5. I'm waiting to see where the next book, where it goes, before I decide whether, you know, do I stick with it or not. But, you know, really great marketing idea doesn't really happen very much in the actual book. So you gotta just be careful, you know, about misrepresenting the book that you're trying to get other people to read because you love it so much. The other thing about algorithms and stuff is you can't guarantee any of this. You can't predict what's going to go viral. You could, I mean, we see, as authors, we see this all the time, you know. We slave and work on something for hours, barely gets a blip, and then we put up a 5-10 minute something we wrote in half an hour and just spewed out, and it gets hundreds and hundreds of notes. You never know what's going to go viral or not. So that's another thing. I mean, you can try, you know, you could try to write a book to all these tropes, which I really wouldn't do, but you could try to do it, and it still might not go viral on TikTok because maybe you just missed the right time window, maybe or maybe, you know, there's something about your tropes that, you know, isn't resonating with them in that 15 minutes that, you know, your post goes up. And the other thing is, this happens, this is not just a BookTok problem. This is a completely book community problem. Because I've seen it on Bookstagram, I've seen it on BookTube, I've seen it on the old book review blogs, I've seen it everywhere. Is that people want to become popular, so they start recommending the same books other people have recommended, which helps boost that book up in the algorithms, which is a good thing for authors. So it boosts that book up in the algorithms, gets more view point of that, you know, view time for that book, and, you know, gives the author more social proof that, hey, I'm making sales, yay. But it becomes this echo chamber. So if you have a newer book you want to get people interested in, it becomes harder and harder to push back against the echo chamber of books that are already super popular into that BookTube or BookTok or Bookstagram or Book Twitter sphere. So like So not only so I mean so if in this case, that's why these books that have been out 3 to 5 years have a more advantage over books that have been, you know, our debuts, because those books that have been out to 3 to 5 years have this, you know, they've been slowly snowballing their, you know, their existence and presence into the internet, and then all of a sudden, or it looks all of a sudden, that little snowball starts getting really, 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 really fast and really, really, really big as somebody who is a popular, you know, BookTok person finally gets around to reading it and they fall in love with it, and then everybody else has to read it and give their opinions because, you know, they agree with this BookTok person, they want to do it out of petty spite, no, they don't agree with them, or, you know, and because BookTok is just such the short form medium, you know, it can get, things get really fast and furious and flying back and forth and drama, drama, drama. But hey, it drives sales, right? So, I mean, you have to really kind of just be aware of that. And I mean, I really wish they would try to do a few more debuts. I mean, that'd be a lot more helpful to authors, because the debut sales do determine the next advance and the next book run of how many books this author is going to sell. So, I mean, I wish they would latch on to a few more debuts, you know, help that out, but that kind of leads us to the ugly part of all this. So the ugly part of BookTok is not necessarily BookTok's fault. It's publishers are seeing things, seeing opportunity in BookTok. That is, seeing the opportunity to do even less for authors. So, publishing industry is a lot more conservative than a lot of people think. Now, there are rumors going around that the publishing industry changed the way it works because of Amazon Indie Print on Demand. And, you know, some Wattpad. Bullshit. Bullshit. The publishing industry has gotten a lot more conservative, a lot less willing to take risks, and it feels like they're blaming Amazon and Wattpad for it. Like, oh, you know, these mid-list authors, instead of using us for their books. They're just going indie because, you know, they think they can get more money when they're indie. Well, if you're not going to willing to give set marketing plans, then yes, you know, they might feel, especially if they have the capability of building a team to do book covers and inside editing and or inside formatting and having their own editors and a group of readers to give them feedback on their books. Sorry, they feel they don't need traditional publishing when they can pay for all the advertisement, get the book tours, you know, submit for the Kirkus review, blah, blah, blah. And if they do sell a lot of books, they'll end up in New York Times anyway. And they know their particular audience, so they can crank out books for that audience really, really fast, you know, and make money. And it will take them a good 3 to 5 years to do this. I mean, go them, I guess. That just sounds exhausting to me. But they're not, the publishing industry is not taking as many risks as it used to. So there are less and less of these, you know, contracts available. They're not, you know, because they went to hardcover first, they're not putting out as many books per month. They, you know, they can say, oh, we never have any type of budget for the books we want to sell, you know, for the advances when it comes to bidding. But, you know, it's just like, I don't know any businesses that really run without budgets and profit and loss statements and stuff like that. It's just a whole bunch of craziness. You know, you're trying to make this, you're making yourself sound completely and utterly incompetent. That's what it is. And so the ugly part of this is they've never seen, according to industry people, a marketing tool quite like TikTok. This is friend for friend rumors again. So they are seeing TikTok, even though most of the stuff that goes on TikTok that gets viral, outside of like Colleen Hoover and a couple other people, are older books. They're saying, oh, we can use TikTok or have our authors use TikTok to promote their books, and we don't have to do as much marketing promotion. So it's no longer, you know, as an author, you have to have a website or, you know, followers on Twitter or followers on YouTube. Like, you know, I think in, you know, you have to have followers on TikTok and be willing to market your books on TikTok. And you know, there's rumors that they're gonna ask you to do so many videos for TikTok. And it's just like, I know that most authors, all they want to do is write books. They don't want to format their books. They don't want to create covers for the books. They don't want to do any of the marketing for their books. You know, if you set them up with a book tour, they're down with that. They will come out. They will, you know, sit at the table. They will do the book reading. They will sign books. They will interact with people. Most of the marketing they want left up to the publishing houses because they just, it's a lot of work, and marketing is a completely different skill set than, you know, writing. I mean, that's why, you know, if there was somebody, a third party who came in and read my books and, you know, was willing to give me a list of tropes and that they saw in the books, a lot of times when you're an author, you're just too close to the books to be able to go, oh, that's what's going on. It's just the way that it is, type of thing. So this is really, really tough on authors who we just want to write, okay? this takes time away from writing. It takes time away from research and world building and in editing and stuff like that. And because if something goes viral on TikTok, you have less time to get it out there, to put it out on shelves. So this is why I say, you better have it done. You better have that manuscript polished until it shines. And it's going to be on you now. It's not on the publishing houses for the editing. It's going to be on you, the author, to have an editor. Because publishing houses, if you get one edit from an editor or pitching it to a publishing house, that's all you're going to get. There's no 2 or 3 edits anymore. You'll get one look through, one recommendation of stuff to change, which you do or do not have to take, and that's it. And it's up to the authors now to have a development editor on hand, and I would say have a line editor and a grammar editor on hand too, to just make sure their manuscript is as polished and as tight as can be, because of things like TikTok, that production time has gotten a lot shorter if they want you to go viral. So not only are there not enough people to edit your book to begin with at the publishing company will want you to work even faster than you would normally do to get the product out onto the shelves. So now I have had I don't know if you want to call it the opportunity or the luxury, I don't know, of reading a lot of indie, and I'm catching up on the more recent traditionally published books, and in my experience, this is personally my experience, it doesn't mean it's going to be your experience, is that I am seeing a lot of the mistakes or lack of polish in traditionally published books that I'm seeing in indie books. So their quality is becoming roughly the same, which, yes, it's not something I want to say. It's just like, ooh, that's kind of not the, I I am happy for the people who manage to get these indie or to get these traditional publishing contracts, because being an indie author is really tough. It's just at the same time, when I'm reading some of these books, I'm going, where was your editor? Because, like, I can see from a world building perspective why this is working. I can kind of see why you might get some awards from the world building half of it, but where was your editor to help you with characterization and structure and pacing and tension? I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried that this got through. Then I remember, oh right, it maybe got one edit if they didn't have a private editor, or if they didn't go through something like Pitch Wars. So, it's one of those things that is not the fault of TikTok. It's not TikTok's fault, but it's how the publishing industry is reacting to TikTok and, things like it. And the other thing is the way authors or publishing houses are trying to make new adult happen. Okay, so new adult is still not a thing. So new adult is, I've heard it called young adult with sex. So it's the reading the 9th to 12th grade reading level with smut. And it's supposed to be for 18 to 24-year-olds, so you would think that the reading level would go up a little tiny bit, but no. So the reason why they were trying to create new adult is Twilight and books like Twilight brought in this huge adult audience to the young adult book reading sphere. These books were written for teenagers, but something about them sparked with moms who usually read romance. So these moms that read romance came to young adults and they brought money. In the publishing industry, instead of going, oh shit, now we need to get them back into romance again, because romance is still going strong. Romance brings in over $1 billion a year to the publishing industry, despite being so divided. The publishing industry decided, ooh, let's make young adult and continue these trends in young adult to try to keep the money coming into young adult. And then they had this problem of, well, sometimes in young adult, if we're trying to cater to the older women, they're going to want the smut. They're not going to want the, just the hand holding and the kissing and the fade to black, type of thing. They're going to want the sexy times. So they tried to make new adults, so technically for 18 to 24-year-olds, but to keep them moms. So with the same types of tropes and ideas of young adult fantasy and young adult fiction, things that are popular on AO3 and they, added more spice. They added lemons. And they tried to make new adult. And what happened, but instead of going, okay, let's make this its new category on its own, because they decided to try to follow the Harry Potter method. So when Harry Potter first came out, this was distinctly middle grade. And it's rather thick for middle grade. It's, I think this one's 65,000 words. But it was good for the, it was distinctly, middle grade in writing style, in writing tone. And it was a little thick for middle grade at the time, but it was thin enough that, young adult readers who wanted to read it, who were intrigued by the concept, would pick it up. There's a steel shredding plant down the road. I mean, 10-15 miles, but they come up and down all the time. And then by the time we hit the Half-Blood Prince here, Harry Potter was fully into what is now called young adult, which really didn't exist back then, okay? So they were having a hard time going, where do we shelve Harry Potter? Do we shelve Harry Potter with middle grade, or do we take the later books and shelve them with adults? So they made up this compromise and started publishing other things in the category with protagonists around the same age as, later Harry Potter books. It's particularly things, like Twilight got off the ground, like The Hunger Games, like Descendant, and things like that. They started publishing other books in the category of young adults. And they created a new category and forced libraries and bookstores to go along with it. because because at least they were putting out enough books. Like the Seventh Son series was one of the first ones that was young adult, and so that's how young adult was created. And eventually, my Redwall books moved out of the adult section and moved into the young adult section. If you can find them on shelves, that's where they are. So eventually, we had a whole new section of books in our libraries and in our bookstores catering towards older teenagers, which, hadn't ever really happened before. This was, this is great. There's a whole new category of books for authors to write to. Yay! And now they're trying to do the same with new adult. And I probably could do an entire video about this, because they tried to take Sarah J. Maas's books, Court of Thorns and Roses, and they tried to create new adult with the same method. So the first books were distinctly in the young adult category, and then as the books progressed, they added in more quote-unquote raunchy material. I haven't read them, not my cup of tea. So so they were trying to create a new adult. Unfortunately, they didn't create distinctive new adult series at the same time. They were kind of relying on Maas to, carry the whole thing, and then they didn't put out, they were still kind of so focused on, oh, we're getting money out of young adult, and instead of like taking some of that money and investing in making new adult a thing, like they had invested in making young adult a thing, they, new adult kind of got left to indie books. So you can find a lot of new adult in indie books where, the protagonists are 18 to 24 years of age, and, they're dealing more with problems of, later teenager problems instead of younger teenager problems, like college. College is a good one. Like, so my books, like, I had one reader come to me and be like, is the Dawn Warrior supposed to be new adult? And I said, I wasn't really writing it for the new adult audience. I suppose, she's about 21. That's part of the conflict, she's turning 21, and her curse is going to come upon her, whether she likes it or not, unless she can figure out a way out of it. And she's got to, kind of do some last minute crap, and before she can fight her curse, you find a way to fight her curse. And I said, I didn't write it for the new adult audience. I did actually end up cutting out the sex scene. It did fade to black. Because I knew my dad was going to read it. So there you go, Daddy. I cut out the smut for you. I'm sorry, my dad has bought my books 3 times. I love him to death. It's just, there are just some things I don't put in there because I know my dad is going to read them. So, I said I didn't particularly write it for the new adult audience in mind, but if you want to, consider it new adult, it could be new adult. Okay, Mr. Butterfly, you're making this way too tight. Alright. So you could consider it new adult. The Lone Prospect you could probably consider the same way, because the main character, well, she's 20, the main female character is 23, I believe, and the main male character is 25. So they're on that tail end of where new adult is, and the whole themes are finding one's place in the world. So, I could understand why people might think, oh, Ginny, you're writing a new adult, even though I don't really feel new adult is a thing, so I write adult books rather than new adult. So, So you're going to have to, and yes, TikTok is in a way trying to make new adult a thing, and trying to help new adult along, but it's not, fixing the problems if we've got too many adults buying young adult, and instead of trying to catering to the tastes of the teenagers. The publishing industry is also trying to at the same time cater to these adults, and and not making new adult an actual thing for them. It's a really weird situation, and it's because you do have people who will go into pitch wars or Twitter pitch fests and be like, I have this new adult book, and you're like, but new adult isn't a thing. New adult is not a publishing category. I mean, you're better off labeling it as an adult rather than young adults, type of thing. So, like any kind of tool, there are going to be good sides, downsides, ugly sides of it. TikTok is just, it's another social media marketing tool where you have to sell yourself. And in selling yourself, you're selling your data to these big corporations so that they can make money off of advertisement dollars and clicks. And which is the really, really, really seedy, shady, ugly side of social media. So the good thing is people are reading. And people are reading, books that are 3 to 5 years old. They're not constantly chasing after the next new thing, and that means authors are getting more royalties. Yay! The bad thing is that, echo chambers and going viral is not guaranteed, and, books being misrepresented is also not a good thing for authors at all, or for readers, for that matter. It hurts everybody. That, so we need a little bit more, a better, responsibility, more ways to market on TikTok other than just using tropes. Get yourself your logline in a sentence. Logline your books, folks. Very important. And then the ugly parts of it is the effect it's having on the industry overall. It's not TikTok's fault. It's, publishers definitely just trying to take advantage of people, so they don't have to spend as much money and still get the same amount of returns, which means a lot more work for authors, which means, they're trying to find books that go viral on TikTok, and they're trying to, they're not putting the effort that they should into making, if they really wanted this new book category, they're not putting the effort they should into it. So, if you ever go viral on TikTok, good for you. If someone wants to read my books and, wants to review copies so they can tell me what tropes are in my books, that'd be great. If, if you like BookTok, that's great. If you don't like BookTok and want to stay out of it, that's great too. So, it all comes down to personal tastes. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bless. Stay safe. And I will see you in the next video.